Renewable Energy 101. Biomass, the original renewable energy. It's been part of our lives since our ancestors learned to control fire. In fact, it's made possible by the sun, whose energy is absorbed by trees and plants through photosynthesis, and then released when organic matter is burned or decomposes. First, there's plant waste. Wood scraps, sawdust, and crop waste can be collected from farms or manufacturers. The waste is burned to heat water. The hot water creates steam. The pressure of the steam spins a turbine. The turbine powers a generator. The generator creates electricity. Simple, really.
I'm Cameron Green. I work with Joe Chalabian and Gavin Roberts on this project, and we're presenting to you biomass energy. First, to understand biomass energy, we have to understand biomass. What is biomass? Biomass is organic material that comes from either plants or animals that stores energy from the sun. The way we utilize this energy is by burning it, whether it's burned directly or first converted into a liquid biogas and then burned as fuel. Let's get into some examples of biomass. Primarily, and most popular, are wood and agricultural products. Wood, whether it's logs, chips, bark, or sawdust, can be burned to efficiently create energy when you have excess wood. Also, agricultural waste such as fruit pits and corn cobs are very popular sources when burned to create energy from excess waste. Second, solid waste is another very good example of biomass, where it's energy from an unlikely source. 4 pounds of waste can produce as much energy as 1 pound of coal, surprisingly, and are burned in what are called waste-to-energy plants that convert this waste from landfills into energy. Now, landfill gas, as you can see, is our third example of biomass energy. Now, landfill gas is produced when bacteria in landfills are consuming rotting or decaying waste that is organic at all, any organic material, any biomass, and it produces gas. Typically, this gas is methane. Now, instead of going into the atmosphere, this methane can be collected by companies or anybody trying to create energy out of this and converted into gas, which can be used as fuel. This landfill gas, methane, is very useful with biomass energy. And finally, you've got alcohol fuels, and the most important and prominent alcohol fuel is ethanol. Ethanol accounts for over 47% of biomass energy, and ethanol is a gas substance that's derived from any organic material that has cellulose in it. Any plant, most likely corn, because corn is the most useful ethanol producer, can be distilled and through a specific process converted into ethanol, which is a very efficient gas that's highly energetic and can store a lot of energy.
One of the pros of biomass is that it decreases dependency on fossil fuels. Biomass is also carbon neutral, meaning that there is no net carbon dioxide release into the atmosphere. Carbon neutrality is important for an alternative energy source because one of the main concerns of coal is the amount of carbon dioxide it releases. Another pro for biomass is waste management. Biomass does not create a large amount of waste, so by reducing the amount of waste that goes into landfills, it positively impacts the environment. Probably the most advantageous part of biomass is the availability. There are many different materials that can be used as biomass, and they can be found all around the world. Although biomass is carbon neutral, it still does release carbon dioxide. It takes time for the carbon to be recaptured, which varies between the different types of biomass. A large downside to biomass is the various gases that it releases during combustion, such as carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and volatile organic compounds. Another con is the cost of building and operating biomass energy plants due to the various processes and large space required for biomass power plants.
Let's get into a case study of biomass energy in action right here in the United States. The state of Vermont is a pioneer state in using biomass energy to supply energy directly to the consumer. Typically, biomass energy is implemented in already industrial facilities that have waste and want to convert that waste into energy, cutting costs. However, 2 large-scale biomass power plants in northern Vermont, in Burlington and Reigate County, have been producing 14 million kilowatt hours of energy every month combined for the last 10 years. Originally, when they were created, they were subsidized by the federal government to create a more renewable source of energy in Vermont. They've been very effective for the last 10 years. However, this year, their contract originally for 10 years is set to expire. However, 2 weeks ago, the United States Senate voted on this bill to extend their contract by 10 years, and the vote passed. This is an example of biomass energy success in the United States, as the plants will continue to operate for another 10 years, producing a plethora of energy directly for Vermont consumers.
Despite the many environmental advantages that biomass possesses, is it really renewable? Even though it is carbon neutral, burning wood releases more carbon than coal does for every unit of energy generated. Meaning, even though if you were using the same amount of wood as you were coal, the coal would release more carbon. Coal is much more efficient at generating energy than wood is. So, if you were trying to obtain an equal amount of energy from wood as you were coal, then you would need to use more wood. Therefore, more carbon would be released. Palm oil, a popular biomass source, is more pollutant than diesel fuel if you consider the land that is used in developing both of them. Forests are cleared to create biofuel, and tree plantations are planted in their place, which depletes soil due to having the same nutrients taken out of the soil without anything to replenish them, and tree plantations don't intake as much carbon as actual forests do. Overall, the negatives of biomass far outweigh the immediate benefits. So the verdict, not renewable.
Biomass has a lot of potential in being a great source of renewable energy, but today's technology hasn't caught up to do so. One of the main flaws of biofuels is the burning of wood. When we burn wood to get energy, it releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which accelerates global warming. Trees are also one of the biggest carbon sinks, and trees, like all other plants, take in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. When these trees are removed, there is a double negative effect. Biomass is used to make biofuels, and ethanol is perhaps the most used biofuel on the planet. Ethanol is no less pollutant than fossil fuels, and the combustion of ethanol is incomplete and releases black carbon into the atmosphere. Ethanol is put into gasoline to help burn the fuel in a car more completely, which is supposed to make the car produce cleaner emissions. The problem with ethanol is the damaging effects it has on a car's engine. Over time, the engine will become damaged and will not be better for the environment. Also, ethanol is made through the fermentation of starch-based crops, the most common of which is corn. With this increased demand for corn, large corporations buy out farms and the price of corn increases. Ethanol production is also dependent on the seasons of farming, which makes it less efficient. Today, biomass is responsible for 4% of the energy in the United States. The states that have utilized biomass the most are North Dakota, Iowa, Mississippi, Georgia, and North Carolina. First, North Dakota has a wide variety of agricultural products that are able to be processed into biofuels. In 2008, about 285 million bushels of corn were harvested, much of which was used at the 4 ethanol plants in the state. In Iowa, the large majority of the existing bioenergy market is made up of ethanol production. Iowa leads the nation with 42 operating ethanol plants, producing 27% of the nation's output. In Mississippi, estimates indicate more than 5 million tons of woody biomass residues and 1 million metric tons of crop residues are available each year. In Georgia, timber harvests produce an average of 6 million green tons of logging residues annually. Much of this can be collected to produce bioenergy products. In North Carolina, much of its electricity generation from biomass comes from wood, wood waste, and landfill gas.